Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another special bonus episode of
80-Bit Newscast Special Report. Slash bonus episode of 80-Bit Pod Smash. We are both recording this for audio listeners later, and we are doing it live on Twitch because the news broke today.
Big news.
I started my work shift, minutes before the day felt like it got in earnest. This blew up across the news feeds, the news screens, and we'll talk about what it is. You probably already know it from the title, but just of course, as always, this is live, so we may be responding to people. So if you are watching this live on Twitch and joining us, then you can please feel free to talk in the chat, and we will respond and discuss anything you bring up. And then, of course, listeners at home later through the podcast feed, just be aware this is like raw, unedited footage. And so we aren't doing our typical like curation of it or anything, or any of our segments or normal stuff. It is a pure bonus episode, and we are quick turnaround. It'll be up pretty much the day after the news broke. So, Termite, I'll let you do it because you were the one who broke the news to me, I think. So
yes.
What happened this morning?
We are your hosts. I am Termite.
That also is a thing. Yep, I'm Penguin.
And we are usually a weekly video game podcast. Every single Monday at midnight, we have an hour-long-ish show about various topics that you care about. We smash those together with video games, 80-Bit Pod Smash. Go check out our website, 80bitpodsmash.com. All the information about who we are, what platforms we are part of, and social media outlets are all there. The news today is the biggest news in gaming history within the last decade, at least.
It's
massive.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be up there
massive news.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Microsoft acquired. They announced today. Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard King.
Activision Blizzard, the company we have been talking about, that we can't seem to stop talking about despite our best efforts. That company, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Spyro, so many. Tony Hawk, yeah, so many freaking. They're up there with EA. Revenue out the wazoo. One of the biggest video game companies has just been bought by Microsoft. For how much money?
It was $68.7 billion with a B. Billion. $68.7 billion.
It's so much money.
That's like ridiculous amounts of money. 6,800 million, like, to put that into any perspective at all, like absolutely stupid amounts of money.
Partially to put it into perspective, they bought Bethesda for $7.5 billion, and that was seen
almost
as
10
like
times
an
as much.
Obscene amount of money, and this is 10 times as much. Like, Microsoft is throwing their weight around. It's insane.
They are.
So,
and the reason why this is so expensive is because of Call of Duty, which is the top-selling video game for the last 10 years in a row. It's topping the charts. It's an annualized franchise that prints money. It's billions in and of itself, just by itself, for one single IP that belongs to Activision only. So the family of Activision Blizzard, you're thinking of all of World of Warcraft, all of Overwatch, all of the esports. I mean, it's a lot that they're getting here as far as deep content, whereas Bethesda, ZeniMax had all of the other like smaller studios that were underneath the Bethesda umbrella. So while it looked like the Bethesda transaction was actually bigger, this has a lot more weight to it because Activision was founded in 1979 as a third-party video game publisher. They've been around since the Atari, and they've been publishing games on every single console you can think of till now. And now they are going to be a exclusive to Microsoft publishing company
potentially, but yes, they are part of their revenue is going to go directly to Microsoft, so they're part of that family. So we will talk about what this means for exclusivity. We'll talk about what it means for the existing franchises, but first let's just talk about the facts. How did this come to be? And then we'll kind of break down what it means for all the various parties and what it means for us and what it means for the gaming world in general. We'll get to all of that. But first, like, what happened? How did it happen? And why did it happen?
Phil Spencer, the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, posted on the news.xbox.com website this morning, January 18th at 5:25 a.m., the following. Creators of Call of Duty, Warcraft, Candy Crush, Tony Hawk, Diablo, Overwatch, Spyro, Hearthstone, Guitar Hero, Crash Bandicoot, StarCraft, and more join Team Xbox. As a team, we are on a mission to extend the joy and community of gaming to everyone on the planet We all know that gaming is the most vibrant and dynamic form of entertainment worldwide. Yes, it is. And we've experienced the power of social connection and friendship that gaming makes possible. As we pursue that mission, it is incredibly exciting to announce that Microsoft has agreed to acquire Activision Blizzard. Over many decades, the studios and teams that make up Activision Blizzard have earned vast wellsprings of joy and respect from billions of people all over the world. We are incredibly excited to have the chance to work with the amazing, talented, dedicated people across Activision Publishing, Blizzard Entertainment, Beanox, Demonware, Digital Legends, High Moon Studios, Infinity Ward, King, Major League Gaming, Radical Entertainment, Raven Software, Sledgehammer Games, Toys for Bob, Treyarch, and every team across Activision Blizzard. Until this transaction closes, Activision Blizzard and Microsoft Gaming will continue to operate independently. Once the deal is complete, the Activision Blizzard business will report to me as CEO, Microsoft Gaming. Upon close...
The deal isn't technically complete yet. They still have to be approved, I believe. And there's some other... Well, hopefully we'll get to the other implications if we have time.
We will.
But there is... But nevertheless, it is, it's the deal is enough, as in both parties have agreed, and as long as their merger does not get interfered with by certain organizations, then it will be a done deal. So
Yep, and I'm not going to read the rest of this letter, but I do want to highlight some things from it. Go check it out. Upon close, we will offer as many Activision Blizzard games as we can within Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass, both new titles and games from Activision Blizzard's incredible catalog. So confirmation that things from Blizzard and Activision will all be available on the existing Game Pass service, PC, console, etc. So like StarCraft 2 is probably going to be PC only as it is. Like I doubt they're going to port that to console, take a lot of work, that kind of stuff. All right, the next sentence I want to highlight here is the fantastic franchises across Activision Blizzard will also accelerate our plans for cloud gaming, allowing more people in more places around the world to participate in the Xbox community using phones, tablets, laptops, and other devices you already own. Activision Blizzard games are enjoyed on a variety of platforms, and we plan to continue to support those communities going forward. Yep. Big words, that was written with intention. It's very vague, but it does say continue to support communities on a variety of platforms. Yeah. So will PlayStation still, what will happen with all of that? And of course PC in those spaces. So the rest of it is more exciting, excitement. Yay from Phil Spencer.
Yes. Well, let's talk about Big Johnson t-shirts question, because it's a big one. So but right before we talk about your question, Big Johnson, I want to talk about some of the context leading up to this, right? Because there's some elephants in the room. Leading up to this, obviously, we have talked to length about the sexual harassment suit. That's kind of the biggest elephant in the room, and we will be discussing that. Right before this news drop, though, a couple of really big things happened that kind of telegraphed it without telegraphing it, right? Like telegraphed it, and like in hindsight, we're like, oh, this makes sense. So the big thing was a week ago, Phil Spencer had just had an interview where he specifically brought up the Activision Blizzard stuff. And he said that we can't really police another company, which again, in hindsight now is kind of ironic, but you could tell he was trying to, I don't know, massage things almost. Like, it's almost like he didn't try to stop. Like, I feel like had this not been happening, maybe he would have been trying to avoid that line of questioning in the first place. Yeah. Because he was doing a really big, high profile interview with, do you remember who it was?
I'm looking it up now.
But he did an interview. They were pushing hard on the Activision Blizzard stuff, and he said, you know what, like, it's not our company, so we're not going to police them. He said, all I can say is within our organization, we are, making he said, we don't have the perfect track record either, but we are working very hard to, eliminate that from our organization. Now, ironically, it's like, okay, well, you got some hard work to do. You're going to be eliminating it in another organization. And then literally yesterday, I believe, news dropped that Activision Blizzard had fired 42 some employees from their midst. And there was some allegations, whether they are proven or not. I'm willing to believe them personally. But there were allegations that Bobby Kotick held back a report as to how many firings there were in order to not make Activision Blizzard look bad. But all of that news was overshadowed this morning when it was announced. But again, these things leading up to it, it's like, I feel like they let that news drop about how many employees they let go of to kind of prove that, we purged all these bad actors from our midst. So, Microsoft doesn't have to worry about it, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. There's some of that. So anyways, to your question, is Bobby Kotick sticking around? Maybe. The actual answer is, as of right now, yes, in the sense that they have announced that Bobby Kotick is staying on as CEO of Activision Blizzard. There is a rumor within the organization, industry insiders who are familiar with these such things supposedly have said that he is going to be quietly resigning once the deal goes through. That was my initial take too, is that
if you look at IGN, they have an update from the Wall Street Journal. Sources familiar with the deal say Activision CEO Bobby Kotick is set to leave after the deal closes, despite contradictory statements saying that Kotick will continue to serve as CEO of Activision Blizzard. The two companies agreed that Kotick will depart once Microsoft acquires Activision Blizzard. Kotick did not specifically address whether he will stay or leave beyond ensuring the very best integration. But with the deal still waiting to be finalized, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard could be keeping the full details of their arrangement private for now.
I mean, my prediction was that he's gonna. I mean, he can't stick around. He, like, you know what I mean? Like, Phil Spencer, his earlier statements and other statements have implied that he does not approve of Bobby Kotick's leadership, right? I mean, maybe he didn't ever explicitly say that, but he did say that we were, originally he said we were disturbed by, the allegations and the women coming forward, and disturbed about how the leadership has handled it. And even when he says, even in his previous statement, when he said that, like, we can't police other companies, that still implies that there's something to police, right? So I can't imagine that Microsoft wants.
I have pulled that if you want to read the source of that statement.
Sure. Nice. Activision
it's from
Blizzard.
I thought you said sure.
Say, no, yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Activision Blizzard, basically, they might have wanted to keep him around. And honestly, my theory now too is that they kept him around because this deal was going underway, right? Like, and they didn't want. He probably threatened to tank the deal, or did I can release so much dirt and then kill this whole deal. So they probably kept him around. He probably had leverage over this. This is all, in hindsight, all of this makes so much more sense. They're gonna let him stay on until the deal is closed, and then he's going to quietly resign. Not make, they don't want a big, Microsoft doesn't want that press. They don't want, all the eyes. So it's going to be up to the journalism industry to really, laser in and be like, he's resigning, and make a big deal out of it, because otherwise I don't think the companies, they're not going to like throw him on they're not going to crucify him, right? They're not going to make a big public display of his.
Nope, he's going to quietly leave.
He's going to quietly leave, and they're going to replace him, and it's going to be that. So
exactly. Phil Spencer is Microsoft
quietly
is
resign with a briefcase full of gold bars. Yeah, you are.
He's going to get
right.
paid.
No recompense, but there's never going to be recompense, financial recompense for him. He was always going to, even if they fired him, he was going to walk away. They may even give him a good cushy spot on the Xbox board for all we know. But like, yeah. So, anyways,
the deal is scheduled. We talked about dates and like when this is going to happen. The deal is scheduled to close the end of the fiscal year in 2023, which puts it around June. So it's 18 months out. And there are entities that are foreign, like Europe, UK, etc., that have to weigh in and like validate the whole thing. So there's lawyers on every side, all the money. It's a big, huge deal. $68 billion is a lot of money. So a ton of legalese and litigation and all the things that happen when these things happen, mergers. But Microsoft stood up a new company internally that Phil Spencer is now the CEO of, and that is Microsoft Gaming. So there's actually a promotion here for Phil Spencer, and Bobby Kotick, however long he does stay, will report directly to Phil Spencer as the CEO. So he will no longer have as much power as he had before. He'll have a lot of say, specifically with Activision Blizzard, as all the information will funnel through him, but he now has accountability, eyes on him, and studios can circumvent him and go straight to Phil Spencer if there are issues or things don't get resolved. So it's all going to look great for the folks that are internal, like working for anyone, a developer, anyone who's working for Activision Blizzard Studios that is under duress now. It's going to look better. With that, the ABK, which is the Activision Blizzard Union.
Activision, ABK Workers Alliance would be, the Activision Blizzard King Workers Alliance.
Just an aside here, I don't want to get too much into the weeds of that, but they're still going. They're still pushing strong. There's still a strike happening. It's like day 5 because they're not, their conditions have not improved yet.
Honestly, anything's, and anything's going to be better for them because they'll be able to, like, if anything, rather, I should say, the workplace conditions should improve because, well, to our knowledge, any company could be corrupt in this way, and we just don't know. But to our knowledge, Microsoft's an organization that handles all this better, and now they are sort of a third party with a new, like they're in charge, and so hopefully they'll be able to enforce a more strict, stringent. And honestly, if I was a harasser, if I was anybody who has ever acted any way questionably within that organization, I'd be shaking in my boots right now, because like you're gonna get some way
days
more
numbered.
scrutiny. Yeah, for sure.
So a couple of people in the industry have weighed in, and I want to read some tweets and some things that happened that are kind of like not articles. But one of the things regarding the business aspect with Activision Blizzard in this allegation lawsuit scenario, Dan Ives, an analyst at Wedbush Securities, wrote in a note to investors, quote, "With Activision stock heavy under pressure with all the CEO-related issues over the last few months, Microsoft viewed this as a window of opportunity to acquire a unique asset that can propel its consumer strategy forward. So the stock was at an all-time low, so buy low, right? That's how you invest. And then to add to flesh out just a little bit more incentive for why Microsoft would... Right, on the cheap. So why didn't someone else step in and buy them, right? So here's that answer, or at least some insight.
$68 billion.
Well, there's that, right? So outside of the cost...
Who has $68 billion? I didn't even think Sony could afford to throw around $68 billion.
Well, apparently Tencent and Sony are the two highest grossing video game industry entities right now, and this new deal puts Microsoft now as third place, which is ahead of EA and ahead of Ubisoft. Nice. So... yeah, Tencent, of course, being the Chinese
Tencent had invested a ton in Activision Blizzard too, so they were already trying to make headway.
Yeah, they're going to be making money on this anyway. But Jeff Keighley tweeted out a couple of things to keep in mind about the Xbox and Activision Blizzard merger. It's not just about the console wars. Xbox didn't really have a mobile play, so King is a vital strategic pillar here to make content.
So can I put a paragraph title over this set of discussion? I want to focus on, and you can continue to talk about the tweets, because I think they're all going to fall in the same vein. I want to focus on two things first to start with. I want to say, what does this mean for Xbox? What does this mean for Microsoft? And what does this mean for Activision Blizzard? So how does it affect these two companies? Okay. So, and you're describing that. Number one, no mobile.
Right. So Microsoft doesn't have a mobile like pillar strategy corporately, right? They're not making mobile games on their own. They don't have a studio that does that. Yeah, they don't have so this is a chance.
Like, they don't have hardware, right?
They used to. There was the Windows phones.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But they killed that because it was bad. So anyway, this is like a way to get into the mobile market through King. And then this is a big play for PC Game Pass, because right now PC Game Pass is just like any game that has a PC version and a console version that's part of Game Pass, you get the PC version of it. And Halo Infinite is the newest example of that, but Forza Horizon 5 and Sea of Thieves, like they all have PC versions that are also on Xbox. So that's what PC Game Pass gets you. I guess the only like true like PC game was Microsoft Flight Simulator, where the console felt like a port versus the PC version. But this is now a big play for PC Game Pass, because most of Blizzard's AAA titles are PC focused. StarCraft 2, Heroes of the Storm was, but Overwatch.
Almost all the ports are like
and while those like Diablo and Overwatch do exist on consoles, the communities there aren't nearly as big as they were on the PC space.
Yeah, and they were designed for the PC space. I mean, Overwatch as a first-person shooter was designed for both, but and then World of Warcraft has no console presence despite years of rumors. So I mean, obviously the other big thing that this means for Xbox and for Xbox gamers is potential exclusivity, as we sort of hinted at. Nothing's set in stone. As you said, they tweeted about how they want to honor all other ecosystems, but I think that it's very clear, or it's with Starfield, they confirmed it's going to be exclusive to Xbox, and PC, Microsoft PC gaming, so I think that one could expect the possibility that some, if not all, of those franchises at least could be subject to exclusivity. For WoW, it doesn't really matter. It's already PC, so it's just and most people play it on Windows. I guess they might make it available. They might abolish the Blizzard launcher and possibly the Mac versions of the game, which would then put it on the Microsoft ecosystem there, or they might make it available on Steam anyways, in which case the Mac versions would still run. So who knows? So it could be, Microsoft seems to be pretty cozy with Steam these days, so it may just be it may just all be available for Mac and PC players through Steam. Who knows? But beyond that, you got to question Diablo. Is Diablo all the console versions of Diablo 4? Are they coming to only to Xbox?
We don't know.
And exactly. And then
so those titles I can definitely see being exclusive to like Microsoft and PC, right? Because they're a little smaller. But when you start talking about Call of Duty, it's like, wait a minute. While it's a valid assertion to think you don't spend $68 billion to share your stuff. But at the same time, Call of Duty generates half of that every year.
Oh, yeah.
You have $30 billion by itself because it exists
version, are they going to drop it on the Apple Store? Probably.
Right?
I mean, they can't, right? We're seeing that with Fortnite too, right? Like they're losing. I'm assuming they're still. Are they off? I don't know whatever happened with that the Fortnite thing and the Apple thing. But if they are still off the App Store, that's a lot of revenue. So I imagine the same. It would be a. Yeah, I don't know. It just depends, right? Like it depends on where they want to invest there.
Right.
And what competition they're willing to like play nice with. And so in that vein, if we're talking like a mixture of like things like what are the implications, but also some predictions. I'm wondering if they're trying to leverage, between the Bethesda and the Activision Blizzard purchases now, they've spent almost $80 billion. And I think they might be trying to strong arm Sony into putting Xbox Game Pass on PlayStation. I know we've talked about this before as a possibility, but it feels more clear now because of these huge franchises. And we also know Xbox has said they don't consider Sony their competition anymore, and they don't want to sell consoles. Those two facts, we don't consider Sony competition. We don't care about selling hardware. And we want to put Game Pass in the hands of as many people as possible.
Which they're doing with the cloud gaming, xCloud. You can play on your phone. TVs, smart TVs are going to have Game Pass installed on them. There was some verbiage in an announcement this year, like within the last year, that talked about like an app being installed on your TV where you have an Xbox controller that's connected to your TV. No console, and you have access to Game Pass, the full library, right? It's every device, Android, Apple. It's every PC, Mac, PC, Windows, whatever. And now we're in the console. Like, I can see with Nintendo kicking up their streaming service. In fact, Kingdom Hearts is now doing a streaming demo. You can go check it out. You can get Kingdom Hearts, which is way beyond the processing capabilities of the Switch. You can get that streamed in. That's a platform.
Right. xCloud. Put xCloud on the Switch and put Game Pass on PlayStation.
And Nintendo plays nicely with Microsoft, Banjo-Kazooie's and Smash, right? Like we've had lots and lots of collaboration between Nintendo and Xbox, but Sony, it's kind of been that kid who's in the corner with the shiniest toys. It's like, I'm not playing with nobody. And if y'all want access to this,
They better start playing.
This will put a fire under Sony's butt for sure.
For collaboration of some kind, because and honestly, I think Game Pass would be the best bet. I mean, why not, right? Like they'll get a cut of the pie, right? Like Xbox pays the people that are on Game Pass, so they'll get a cut, and they'll probably, and knowing Sony, they'll absolutely leverage their install base to get an even deeper cut than the average developer. But and then who knows beyond that? Like, does Xbox Game Pass become the Netflix, truly the Netflix of games, but in like the way Netflix started, where it was like a monopoly, it had the only streaming service, right, or it was the only like thing. So we'll see. Obviously Sony's doing their stuff. We'll talk more about implications of what this means to the gaming world in general. But like, I think that might be part of Xbox strategy. Is we know that Game Pass is their model. They want that subscription revenue.
Yep.
And it seems like, and we know that this is meant to augment that. That's on the front, right? That's on the surface. Does this mean that Game Pass subscribers will get WoW subscription? Possibly, right? Like, that's why they're doing this. Is they want they don't want you to buy Xboxes. They want you to buy Game Pass. And so if Sony puts Game Pass, if Sony puts Xbox Game Pass on PlayStation, I'm buying it, of course. I'm in. So why not? It's such a good valuation. So anyways, cool. Anything else about what this means for Xbox, what this means for Microsoft, before we move on to what this means for Activision Blizzard?
If it depends on how you want to shape the conversation, we could go into much more, all of the implications for
I want to
Microsoft's
talk about IPs
direction
separately.
And studios.
I want to talk about
IP separately. Got it. Yep. Cool.
So what does this mean for the organization of Activision Blizzard in general?
Right.
Other than, of course, the sexual harassment
leadership.
Stuff.
Like that's new leadership. This is going to put. And Jason Schreier had and some sentiments that he has heard on Twitter from Activision Blizzard employees today. Optimism in general about management changes and a positive culture at several Xbox-owned studios. So that's great. There's still fury toward Microsoft for giving Bobby Kotick a big payday and a soft exit, as we talked about earlier. If he doesn't stay as CEO, which it doesn't look like he is, he still gets that like womp womp. He gets to just disappear and be rich. And then no justice. And then determination to keep organizing, which is nice. And that would be a reference to the Workers' Alliance, the unionization.
And the strikes for Raven.
Strikes,
So Well, I also
I
think
don't
that
think
this will be a big help to their workforce too, right? They'll have access to Microsoft's development studios, tools,
pipelines.
everything.
Yeah.
Yep, pipelines,
Yep.
exactly. So resources for them. Again, for better or for worse, that means that though, an influx of Microsoft talent might mean that, they have less leverage over their ability to continue to strike and all that stuff. So,
And
not
Microsoft
saying
has
that
put
that's
a
it's
emphasis
weird.
on creativity and like freedom of expression,
Yeah.
and they've said that they've beat that like drum so loudly among all of the other studio acquisitions they've done so far. It's like they want to be less restrictive and be more enabling for creative works to do
Which
and
is
flourish the way that they need to. And Microsoft
which
is
is better
pumping
than
money.
what because Activision Blizzard's not known for that
Right.
anymore,
Yeah.
or wasn't. Yeah, was stopped
No,
becoming known for
Activision
that. So.
actually like squandered and stifled all of the creativity and drove all of its
Exactly.
franchises into the ground. In fact, they started moving studios to just work on Call of Duty, and it ended up being like 4 to 6 different studios were all focused on the
Yep.
various aspects of Call of Duty. There was
And that was
the
just
free to play
the Activision side,
Warzone,
yeah.
there was the battle royale version, the free to play Warzone, and then the latest Vanguard, which apparently was a critical and like flop. Like it was not good.
And everybody,
so,
for the last 10 years, people have been saying that that's exactly what Activision's influence over Blizzard has been, which is becoming
Yep.
more and more like
Yeah, we saw the closure
and more
of
crappy, and everything's all their stuff has been poorly received, and they started releasing ridiculous flops like Warcraft 3 Reforged and all that. So like,
no, that was bad. And then
Xbox
Diablo
giving more, encouraging more creative freedom. Microsoft will hopefully be coming in and kind of alleviating some of that. And hopefully it means more, more quality coming out of those teams, and overall better, overall better games. But that segues us nicely into then let's talk about the games themselves.
Yeah.
What does this merger mean for the intellectual properties specifically? So the specific games, how could those specific games change, or developers? How could like you said, that if you're talking about developers who may not have to work on certain IPs anymore, what could they work on? What does this mean for the rest of Xbox's studios, given that now they own these Blizzard IPs and presumably, or will hopefully own these Blizzard IPs and presumably would have access to those intellectual properties however they deem fit? What are the possibilities? What could we see from this as a result?
Yeah, there's like the IP umbrella, but there's also the developer umbrella. Yep. So if I'm working at Blizzard and I'm working on World of Warcraft and I'm like writing quests and I'm just bored and I'm uninspired, I'm like, you know what? Obsidian over there, they're making Outer Worlds 2. I want to write quests for Outer Worlds 2. I can then, vie management to be like, can you move me to that studio? I'd like to do that. And that is a driven by passion move, and nothing but good comes out of that. Yeah. You fulfill the person, they build, like you allow them to thrive.
They do their best work, and then you get a good product.
They're excited, they're inspired. You get a really great quest writer, right? So that's just one tiny example that can now happen across all of these companies, that's like the personnel side of things,
talent,
right? But then you think about like the fun IP craziness, where it's like, you know what, Coalition, who made Gears of War, you're gonna revive StarCraft Ghost. And it's going to be the third person over the shoulder like shooter.
Because Blizzard hasn't been doing anything with StarCraft, and they've more or less confirmed they're not doing anything with StarCraft, but they still own the IP. Not anymore. Microsoft owns the IP. Blizzard, you don't have any time or desire or whatever to work on this. We're going to take Coalition, who made Gears of War, and they're going to make a third person. They're going to make that third person Terran fighting Zerg and Protoss cover-based third person shooter.
And then throw in the Grand Theft Auto 5, like change character perspectives across Protoss, Zerg, and Terran all at once. You could have a dream game. It would be awesome.
So and they could, because they're not doing anything with the IP anyways. So why not why not take the IP and make spin-off games, and now take that idea and apply it to like all of Blizzard, right? You want a Dark Souls clone that takes place in the Diablo universe, like throw, I don't know, Playground Games on it after they're done with Fable or whatever, right? Like you want a Warcraft game, how about a new Warcraft RTS or something, right? Like, because again, maybe Blizzard seems focused on World of Warcraft, which who knows what kind of talent they could take now from Bethesda or Obsidian to augment the World of Warcraft team and kind of improve that, right? Like writers, designers, like they get all this cross-pollination. There's so many possibilities. And then, you name it, right? Call of Duty can now benefit from Microsoft's.
And what would be
teams.
cool
It's
is
amazing.
like Activision was so focused on risk reduction and what gives them money and guarantee and raising their stakeholders' value and such with one avenue, and that was Call of Duty. And so like you could see how they focused, right? They like Diablo 2 Remastered was pulled out of production. The team was entirely laid off. They took Vicarious Visions, who had just made the Tony Hawk Pro Skater remaster, and put them on the Diablo 2 remaster. Like there's all of this stuff that's happening inside of Activision because of how restrictive they've been. Now they're free, and that doesn't have to happen anymore. So maybe they take a year off of Call of Duty, and they're like, you know what? We don't need that because we have the support of these other studios to make the money back. So we're not going to lose any money not having a Call of Duty this year. Take a step back, make something amazing, and get all of the people involved. Maybe 343 Studios can help, like with Halo expertise and shooter feel and look, and put Treyarch and Sledgehammer onto something else. They're amazing.
Something else.
Right.
Let them please make something else other than Call of Duty, and then just like let one of the, if whichever one wants to continue to make Call of Duties, let them make Call of Duty, or make a new Call of Duty studio, make a new studio from developers of all three teams and some Microsoft developers, and they're the Call of Duty studio, and they're operating under Activision Blizzard, and all those other tenured development teams can do something passionate that they care about that's not the same Call of Duty game.
Yep,
they've been.
I love your other idea too of Ninja Theory standing up a Diablo game.
That was. I kept thinking, I was like, not Playground. What's the other one that I like? Oh,
Ninja Theory.
I saw it on your notes, and I was like, dang it.
Yeah,
Ninja Theory. If Ninja Theory did a Diablo Souls like spinoff, or even just a Diablo spinoff, like a horror spinoff that's kind of like in the vein of Senua's Sacrifice, still third, like that would be fine too.
Don't forget. Speaking of a Souls type game, don't forget that Activision published Sekiro.
Yep.
And that's a From Software.
Sekiro 2 is now going to be Microsoft exclusive. If there's a Sekiro 2,
probably, yeah.
Which maybe what they were gunning for all along, because everybody's still trying to get a piece of that. Everyone's still trying to get exclusivity on From Software stuff, and Sony has made a big move towards that. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony tried to acquire them or has been trying to acquire them. And they've been resistant to it. We'll talk about that more. We got a From Software episode coming up, but But
in
this case, you're right. Yeah, if it's going to be public, if Activision technically owns Sekiro, then if From Software wants to make it again, it's going to 100% be Microsoft Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, let's talk about the exclusivity thing for a little bit here. So everyone, when Bethesda was acquired by Microsoft, they're like, no way Elder Scrolls is going to be exclusive. It's too big. No way Starfield is exclusive. It's too big. Boom. It came out. Starfield is exclusive to Microsoft. And then here we are with Blizzard and all this wonderful IP. Like,
wow,
that stuff is not super big in the Call of Duty money sense, and so it does make sense that a lot of Blizzard IP would probably be relegated to Microsoft and stuck there. We saw Banjo-Kazooie, of course, by Rare, and so why not Crash and Spyro to jump into that kind of cartoony platform and cater, right? So we know those
Rareware making a Spyro game,
wouldn't it be wild?
A crossover game of any
oh
my gosh,
yeah,
but it's possible now, and they have them, right? And even if they don't, even if it's still Activision, they can take people, talent, and designers from the Rare team to augment that.
But another insight to this.
Well, I was going to say real quick, any of those spinoffs that we were just talking about, possible spinoffs, dreaming about those spinoffs, 100% those are going to be
exclusive.
Microsoft exclusive.
Of course.
Cool. Yep. So my dream Ninja Theory Diablo game, better pony up that Game Pass money, or Game Pass, please come on PlayStation.
Ooh, what if? That's a whole what if. That would train wreck this conversation. I do want to talk about this real quick. EA Play exists on Game Pass. Of course, you can get EA Play. It's a subscription service directly from EA. You can get access to their PC library, PlayStation, Xbox, but they've partnered with Game Pass, so Game Pass Ultimate has EA Play included. That means you get FIFA and you get Madden. So if you have Game Pass Ultimate, I know, but these are the money makers. Look at the top 5 games every single year. They're billion-dollar franchises, each of them. And with Microsoft now owning an avenue with which to get all of that onto their platform, I can see Call of Duty staying a multi-platform, but being exclusive content, early access, maybe console lock, exclusive time frames, whatever you call the early access stuff, and that is exclusive to Microsoft, but it exists like an EA Play Madden game where it does go everywhere, but when you fire up Call of Duty on a PlayStation, you get the Microsoft Game Studios logo and just like MLB The Show is a PlayStation franchise that exists on Game Pass. So when you fire it up, you see the PlayStation Studio logo. So like weird stuff like that's probably going to happen. I hope long term,
in the transition at least, long term,
yeah.
Long term,
just
like I said, it'll either resolve itself by these organizations working together, or it'll resolve itself by the lines being drawn in the sand and no cross pollination happening.
Yep. And so who knows what'll happen with all that?
You want to hear my prediction? You want to hear my other prediction? I have my
Lay it on
Bobby
me.
Kotick prediction. My prediction is all eyes are coming on Nintendo next, because Nintendo and Xbox have already, demonstrated their capacity to play nice. They've had no problems with the crossplay stuff. My guess, Nintendo will never be bought by Microsoft. I don't would never predict that.
Yeah.
But what I could see happening is Nintendo making a deal to get xCloud and potentially Game Pass onto the Switch. We already know that they want third-party support. Not everything from Game Pass would be available to download on Switch, but you could, if they, folded in with xCloud, then you could potentially stream stuff that you couldn't play. All that's just to say, Xbox's services on Switch, and in return, Xbox gets 1 year later access to Nintendo games IPs on the Game Pass service for at least a year or two, right? Because things come and go. So I could see Nintendo games ending up on Game Pass. And if that happens, then Sony will, they'll be cornered, right? All of their enemies, so to speak, will be allied against them. They would have to give something. I feel like the goal, at least in my mind, the goal is to get Microsoft sees the install base and respects it and wants it. But they're going the sneaky way of getting it. Maybe not sneaky, but they're definitely going the brute force way of getting it. Short of buying Sony straight up, which also will probably never happen.
Right. It's every generation of consoles switches which is the industry lead, and so the Xbox 360. Well, the original Xbox generation was led by PlayStation 2. Yeah. And then Microsoft was the underdog here. They came out with their new console. And then the 360 came out and they dominated that entire generation until the last third, where Sony kicked up Infamous and Resistance 1, 2, and 3, and
everybody
Killzone
2 and
3.
Xboxes and recovered from that because it was artificially extended by the recession. So people were like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll buy a PlayStation as well on top of it," and that's where sometimes.
And then PlayStation actually outsold the 360 by the end of that life cycle. There's more PS3s in the wild than 360s, which is crazy to think about because Microsoft has been so online focused with Xbox Live and their ease of platform.
But they were dominating the conversation and dominating the third party support.
They were,
at the time.
yeah. And same with Call of Duty at that time was dominant on Microsoft, so it makes sense. Right. But then the next generation came, PlayStation 4 took over again, and that massive,
Yep.
And so here we are.
Xbox.
We're at the very beginning of
turning. It's turning
here,
again.
It's coming. Yeah. Where are we going to be if this generation is 5 to 7 years long? It just started. We're 1 year in. So where are we going to be in 3-4 years when it's 2026? And this Microsoft deal is closed out.
Sony's been getting flack, right? Sony's been getting bad press once again. Sony's been making some. It's like they you're right. It's like they flip flop. It's like they start making bad decisions because they get. It's like hubris, whereas But anyways, Microsoft's been making great moves, and now it's paying off. Now it's showing
big time moves.
It's like they started making the smaller moves, and now it's the smaller moves were just the starting salvos, and now they're really pulling out the big guns. And Microsoft can afford to do it because they have their Azure. They're ubiquitous in business right now, right?
Oh yeah, Windows 11, Windows 10 everywhere. Yeah. Office products, Teams,
it's huge, and with Azure, just it's a big deal. So they have it to throw around, right? That's what it boils down to. They are not the greatest. They're not the biggest company, right? They're not the most revenue out there, but they have enough to in this industry really, really throw their weight around. So
they just increased their revenue by 70 billion.
Right. Yeah. So we sort of hit on that last topic I want to talk about. What does it mean for the gaming world in general? We've kind of hit on that, implications for Nintendo and Sony. Obviously, we can talk about the implications for gamers, right? But we talked about sort of the tides turning, the power dynamic shifting. But any other thoughts? Any other closing ideas as to what's happening here? I think one of the things that we haven't hit on was the Monopoly thing, the trust busting.
Yeah, I mean, this is possible. I don't know a lot, and apparently that was thrown around on the internet today, and it was met with a lot of you don't really know. So it seems like it's complicated.
It's complicated, but this is not the first time this kind of thing's come up. The merger between T-Mobile and Sprint. like people have been, and just in general, like, I mean, Amazon's like over domination and like pushing people out of the market. Tech right now has a trust shaped target on their back, big tech in general, and gaming's part of that. So when people start seeing Microsoft doing this, edging out their, I mean, that's what they're doing, right? Is that not what they're doing? Are they not trying to edge out their competition in some way, shape, or form?
Disney's another one, acquiring Star Wars and Marvel. Like they're in that conversation too. And you're right. It's the consolidation in the gaming industry is insane. Like Sony's acquired a ton of studios. They're shutting down disparate studios and like consolidating them internally.
It's like small studios that are like now we're giving you like, I don't know. It feels weirder than Microsoft buying the big names. And it seemed, 5 years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. You would have laughed at the idea. Right. Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. That's
buying
absurd.
Bethesda. It's funny if you look at like a previous E3 like schedule. It's like here's Square Enix, here's Activision, here's Ubisoft, here is Bethesda. Oh, and here's Microsoft and Sony. Like they're on the same level, and Microsoft is going for that, like the high level, the big names. Where like when Sony acquires a studio, it's Bluepoint, which it's like
it's great,
it's
awesome.
It's not Activision.
No, it's not. But it's a small studio that they're now like making great in a way because they've proven their quality, right? Like Sony goes for quality, Microsoft's just going for clout, it feels like at this point. I also have noticed that for the most part they're all American companies too. Like, I mean, not all the smaller studios, but these big ones, these big acquisitions are American companies. I would be interested in seeing if Sony were to court Square Enix, court From Software, court Japanese, right? For I wouldn't necessarily want that, but it's possible, right? Because these companies may tend to want to work with people who look and talk like them. So we'll see. Like, I don't know. It's there's a lot of possibilities there. Or rather, like, but also the trust stuff too is like it's coming up in regards to like, should this be possible? And that's where the big question mark right now is like, is this kind of thing's already coming under political fire because it is a little absurd, right? Like. On the one hand, it's like, oh, cool, we could get a lot of cool games from this. On the other hand, it's like, but should this be allowed? Because it is a little anti-competitive. Like, it's greatly anti-competitive. We talked about how important competition is in this industry.
The interesting kind of unique facet to the industry in the video game world, the video game industry, is the indie space is flourishing with this happening also, where like monopolies usually come in and say, we're going to corner this market, you can't have it, and there's no competition. Whereas, like, it's very viable for, like, you and I to stand up a studio and make indie games and get support from EA, from Microsoft, from Sony.
You have different perspectives on that.
And so, like, but we've had more successful, more successful independent games have come out in the last, like, 5 years than in the previous 10 before that, where they weren't getting any like notoriety or no curation in the marketplace is like a whole different kind of adjacent conversation to this. So that's kind of the contrast to the monopoly. If you're thinking of the negative aspects of the consolidation of the gaming industry's companies, it doesn't shut people out. Like independent developers, look at Hazellight Studios, who just came out and made Game of the Year. They were an independent studio that made, A Way Out and Brothers prior to that. Those were both indie games, and so like now they're not independent, but because EA, like they're friendly with EA. But anyway, it's just one example. Look at Stardew Valley, look at Minecraft. Like these are independent games that have come to the mega conversation that are making tons and tons of money and flourishing while there is consolidation happening. So it's not really like stifling new studios from coming out. You know what I mean? Like that's. To me, that's the argument that, like, yes, it's a monopoly by definition, but it's not as egregious as, like, Rockefeller's monopoly on oil. Like, like back
Rockefeller could only have dreamed to make as much money as Microsoft's making now.
Yeah, no joke.
So, or even Google or Apple, all, big tech is just raking in obscene amounts of money. Amazon, right? The richest people in the world are big tech people, so... Anyways, well, cool. I think that'll do it. I know there's more, and there's gonna be a lot to unpack, and as more things get revealed, there's plenty to unpack. But that's kind of the big ones. Obviously, to me, the biggest things, the possibilities here are the possibilities of the games coming out of those IPs. For the longest time, Activision. Oh, the one thing we didn't talk about that I do really want to hit on quick. Bullet dodged Bungie again, right? Like Bungie.
Oh yeah.
Bungie was owned by Microsoft, and then they left Microsoft, and they came to Activision Blizzard, and then they left Activision Blizzard seemingly just in time to not be just bought by Microsoft again.
Yep.
What if all of this was just Microsoft being like, we really want Bungie, we want to get Bungie again, and then Bungie left and they're like, dang it, no, we were just about to buy you. I know the timeline doesn't line up, but Bungie left long before this was even an apple in Phil Spencer's eye. But I certainly am like, it's kind of funny that Bungie could have, in a parallel universe out there somewhere, Bungie did not leave Activision Blizzard, and Bungie is now once again owned by Microsoft, making Halo probably. Oh man!
I do want to do one little fun experiment. So let's switch gears. We'll end with this.
Sure.
Where are you and where am I personally with this? Like, how do I, Termite, feel about my gaming experience changing in the future? And I did a little fun. I'll start, and then you can kind of jump on and answer how you want. But like, I looked at my PlayStation library, and I'm like, what if this existed now, and those games that are now Xbox Studios were always exclusive, and I didn't get them on PlayStation? What games would I lose from my library? How would this affect me? And it's Crash, Insane Trilogy, Crash 4, Diablo 3 for PS4, Spyro, and Tony Hawk. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games on PlayStation in that regard. And then with the Bethesda situation, there's Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Outer Worlds. So a total of 7 games. I have 67 discs, I believe, on PlayStation 4. I'm looking up the exact number now. But the point is, this is minuscule for my video game tastes. It really won't. I do have an Xbox Series X, so it won't. Like, I can just get the games over there. I have 80. I'm sorry, I have 80 discs on PS4.
Wow, I didn't realize you had that many.
So this is 7. It's less than 10% of my entire library, and those are games I enjoyed. I've gotten some platinums out of those, and I've enjoyed some time in them, but it's not like I just kind of
right.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, my
fine.
tastes too have changed. I mean, I come from Blizzard stock, so to speak. You know, my World of Warcraft years and Diablo even before that and throughout that. So of course Blizzard's still kind of, I wouldn't say near and dear to my heart just because of all the drama, but like they're still significant in my history, my gaming history. But as of right now, if we're looking at today, like like you said, it's negligible for me. I think just quickly thinking, because I'm not looking at it right now, and I didn't do the research ahead of time. But like Sekiro, I don't have Diablo on that. I have it on the Switch. So Sekiro and from my PlayStation library, what we're talking about are like that and Outer Worlds. Yep. So it's like 2 for me, and I don't have it's not 2 out of 80 for me. It's 2 out of much less than that. But it's still like it's fairly negligible, as you said. To my taste. And I mean, I'm interested in what kind of games could come out of it, but I'm not playing Call of Duty. I'm not really playing anything on the Blizzard side of things, so it's not really affecting me, which is just funny because that's basically what Bethesda is to me too. It's like okay, I understand from an industry point of view, this is huge. Like, oh my gosh, all those players, PlayStation players, are now potentially displaced.
Yep.
Not me though, because none of those games. Doom might be the only game on there that I'm sitting there being like,
I didn't put that on my list. Yeah, I have Doom. You're right.
Yeah,
Doom and Doom Eternal.
Yep. So that would be the only one that I'm like, oh man, okay, well, shame. Outer Worlds as well for me as far as the Bethesda side of things go, but from the Blizzard side, it's like, or Activision Blizzard side, it's like, okay, like I am more excited about what kind of things could come out of those IPs and what the better quality. Now, I am more interested in Diablo 4 now, but. You mentioned, and so I'm interested to hear what your thoughts. You still rescinding, so where do you stand in your boycott? Because up to this point, you and I have been boycotting Activision Blizzard. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, so I would say now, given the change in leadership that happened, it's not Kotick. What's his name? Brack? Alan Brack?
Jalen Brack.
He's gone, and the leadership change. There was a female there for a while before she had left on her own, like to go do other things to help promote women in the gaming industry, which is awesome. With the Workers Alliance happening and the strikes happening, like Blizzard is not the same Blizzard that it was when they banned the Hong Kong or the players from the Hearthstone Grandmaster tournament that were trying to raise awareness for Hong Kong. Like Blizzard's not the same company anymore to do that. And Kotick's, his name is like, or his time is ticking, like his days are numbered, so he's not there anymore. He's not going to have as much influence. Everything is going to be about this merger from here to when it happens. It's all about how to keep the merger like going. It's saving face. We're not even going to have, like, we might have one more Call of Duty game before Microsoft owns the whole thing anyway. So I find it okay to like lift the boycott. If exploring some Blizzard games. I'm fine with it now. People who are getting the money are the developers who I always supported, who I always had a heart go out to, who pour their heart and soul into games, who have been mistreated by a terrible leader. And that leader is now leaving, and the entire infrastructure is upended. So let's support those developers on the ground.
Raven, talking about developers on the ground, though, there's still the Raven issue. So making sure that I hope Microsoft steps in and says, no, let's just hire them back, right? We have the money, right?
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully that resolves pretty soon, and Microsoft's influence will hopefully affect that. And then, of course, just in general, I think I would want to see from the employees that there's changes that they need to be really public with any changes they make is what I'm saying to win me back. That said, I also want to see the quality go up, right? Because that's the other component too, is Blizzard games have been, at least from the Blizzard side of it, the games have been sliding in quality, all things considered. So the next WoW expansion needs to tempt me back. And then Diablo 4, of course, needs to be something that I want to play before I'd be willing to commit to any of it. Overwatch 2 is already, looking kind of like something I don't want to even bother with. So we'll see. Anyways, so as far as I'm concerned, it's not so. I mean, the boycott's in a weird space because I don't know how I feel about completely rescinding it yet, just because it doesn't. Like, I'm willing to wait and watch for a little bit. But I wasn't planning on buying anything in the short term anyway. So it's like short term, nothing's changing for me.
Right, but
it's
I'm
not
like
going to download the Blizzard launcher or anything like that, or start playing Overwatch again. But what I will do is I will consider that, like, Diablo 4 is a while out anyway, so I might be back on the table, but really need to see what the effects are going to be of this, and need to see that quality come back to these games, which I'm optimistic that it will. But all right, any final closing chats that we have or anything?
Yes, there was one more. PS5 is hard to find. Current gen Xbox can be played on PC, so that looks good for Microsoft, in my opinion, and that seems attractive to developers. That is true.
Great point. Yep, very good point. Yep, because right now it's hard to get the hardware, so that puts them at a disadvantage when you can just get on your PC and play everything that Xbox is putting out. So
at least all the big hits.
Will that normalize between now and when this deal 2023 when this deal goes through?
It'll look different for sure. Don't know if it'll normalize, but it'll look different.
Yeah.
Sure. And so like the last thought is, like, in general, what is Sony going to be? Like, what is their identity here? Right? If Microsoft's like king of all of the big hitters, like, I heard the word thrown around today on Kind of Funny Games Daily. You can go check them out. That Sony's like a boutique now. Like these special, like, single player, extremely high quality, big, massive AAA experiences, cinematic level of like immersion and detail, right? We have the VR2 coming. We've got the DualSense controller. It's all about immersion and this experience. It's super expensive and high end. It's like there's not really any wiggle room. You can get an Xbox Series S and some Game Pass, and like that's any budget gamer's like dream, like to have the full library of the industry at your fingertips for $300, like, and it's a monthly subscription. Whereas PlayStation, the entry point is $400 if you don't have a disc drive, and then all the games are expensive, like $60 to $70, and they're starting to not be as discounted as some of the other ones are. So what does that mean?
So good experiences, though, right? Like if someone were to get into gaming right now, these are the things that I would be trying to get them to weigh, right? Like, yes, don't just buy the cheapest option because you're not going to get the best experiences. But I also understand the best experiences right now are, I mean, you are getting what you pay for, but you're paying for it. So,
exactly. Yeah.
It is kind of a quantity versus quality situation here, and how long can Sony sustain that without making moves to the contrary? So there's rumors about Spartacus being their backwards compatibility solution with PS3 games finally being playable. There were patents about emulation on the console being something that they were looking into, but nothing's confirmed. And that's a conversation for another time. So hopefully we'll see what happens. And Sony should be reconsidering some things right now. Hopefully they're having long internal discussions about how to compete in this space now that this is happening. So or whether or not they should be competing in the traditional sense. So anyways, all that's just to say, thank you for watching. We went way over longer than I intended. That's okay. It's a bonus episode. It's a live stream, so hopefully it entertained and delights people, and sort of snapshots this moment in history for us. So, we'll talk to you guys soon on the podcast. There's an episode airing on this Monday about the Game Boy in celebration of Pokemon Arceus coming out, so check that out. We just dropped an episode last Monday on the multiplayer magic number, so check that out as well, because that is up. It's ready to go. If you liked our discussion, if you're new, if you've never seen us before, go check that out. If you're watching this like 5 years in the future, then just check out whatever our latest episode is, because hopefully we're still here.
Yes.
And
you'll see us in person in trivia at a brewery somewhere.
Yeah, for real. So anyways, go or you'll see our names plastered on Times Square, because we're going to be huge by then.
Huge.
Anyways, we do want to hear your thoughts though on this. We want to hear more feedback. Again, if you're not watching this live, like our friend Big Johnson T-shirt here, who's been chatting with us the whole time. If you wanted to have that conversation with us, and if you wanted to add thoughts as well, but are listening to this in hindsight, then Termite will tell you all the places where you can find more 80-Bit Pod Smash and engage with us with all of your amazing ideas.
80bitpodsmash.com, 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website with links to all of our podcast platforms where you can get that show beamed right to you at midnight every single Monday, as well as links to our social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, and we have a Discord server. You can jump in and start a conversation about this very thing with all of us and our awesome audience and our awesome community in Virginia over here on the East Coast. Get to know us, throw us what you think, what's going on. Microsoft just acquired a big 3 publishing company. Big deal. It's a very big deal.
Very big deal. So cool. All right. Well, don't have anything to add, so we'll see you next week.
See you next week.